did say sorry.
I did say sorry.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You did not.
Babe, I said sorry. You're
Say
delusional.
sorry.
I'm sorry. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Norales channel. Santos Norales.
I'm Aaliyah.
You're supposed to say Aaliyah Norales.
My name
You don't like your last name? Say it.
My name is Aaliyah Norales.
Today we're going to be talking about unequally yoked relationships and how we got our relationship to be yoked. This is our baby.
Do you have anything to say?
Should put her on her walker. What can we say about unequally yoked relationships? Where do we start?
I think it's important when you look at an unequally yoked relationship is to recognize that the person who is a believer, and the person who has a relationship with God and has an understanding of the importance of being in an equally yoked relationship, if you choose to enter into a relationship with someone who you know is not a believer in terms of having the same faith as you, then you need to give them a break and understand that it was your decision and your choice that went into a relationship with them. I feel like so many people in unequally yoked relationships will just kind of start dating the person, even marry them without them really having an understanding of God, and then they just get mad at them for something that they knew about the whole time. So it's like...
Yeah. Like, for example, her and I started dating. At the time, she was a Christian. I would call myself spiritual, just not religious person. And she was the type of person that she wanted to go to church. And one of the requirements for us to be together was for that I had to go to church for her. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was cool with it. I didn't turn to Jesus as quickly as, it didn't happen overnight. Mm-hmm. It took some time. But now we're both Christian. We're both married. We both believe in Jesus, and we're both equally yoked. And we want to talk about that transition, how it looked like for us and how it may look like for others.
If you're in a relationship, if you choose to enter into a relationship with someone who's not a believer, then you need to take on that burden and not bring it to them all the time, because there was a point in our relationship where when we first started dating, for me, the requirement was that he went to church. But when we were at college, you couldn't really go to church, and I wasn't going to church either. So I took like a break in terms of my expectation of him, because I wasn't doing the things that I expected of you either. Mm-hmm. So our relationship continued to grow in a lot of ways outside of God throughout that time. Yeah. But I was still connected to God, and I still would send him things and try to like do my best, really. But at the same time, it was kind of like, that's just not where we were at the moment. I couldn't expect him to do something that I wasn't doing either. I couldn't expect that he was going to be praying all the time and I wasn't praying all the time, reading the Bible and I wasn't reading the Bible. I wasn't going to church.
Understand the importance of having God at the center of our relationship. That's really what it was. So we were just in a relationship. We were going with the flow, just being, naive kids, not understanding. We didn't really have much guidance at the time. So it was just a series of the next thing without us really having a solid foundation of like where to lay our head on.
Yeah.
Things really changed when we both graduated. So when we both graduated, we started going to church together, but the church that we were going to at the time didn't really speak to us. That's why it's also important to find a good church home, a good foundation.
If you've been going to a church for a long time, you enter into a relationship with someone who's not equally yoked and they don't like the church home, I think that it's important for you to be open enough to go to look at other church homes to see if there's a place that you guys both will enjoy. Because had I kept you at that church against your will and you just kept going there, then you would have never spiritually grown either. So I had to have the spiritual discernment to understand that it's the same God at all of these places. So if a church home is going to speak to both of you guys, then you should just go there. You shouldn't stay there because you feel like he has to just do exactly like what you've been doing. I just have to add that in.
No, you're right. Yeah, so at the time, the church home wasn't speaking to either one of us. And so she decided that she wanted to find something else. And she was talking about it for a long time, like saying like, this church doesn't speak to me, this church doesn't speak to me. And finally, to another church. We ended up finding a church home. And it was great. At the time, I didn't really see the benefit of it because I was doing my own thing and she was doing her own thing. So we decided that she would go without me. And she would come home all the time talking about everything she learned and how beautiful it was and how insightful it was. And she was starting to grow spiritually but I still was not there.
You can't expect someone to do something for you that you're not doing for yourself. When you're in an unequally yoked relationship, there's always someone that's winning. So it's either the person who is spiritually sound or the person who is spiritually immature. So every single Sunday when we were living together, I would be like, I want to go to church. Do you want to go to church with me tomorrow? And he'd be like, no. And I would be like, oh, and I wouldn't go to church. So I remember the moment where I thought, like, I don't need to wait for him to go to church if I want to go. So I was just like, I'm going to start going. At the time, he was working on Sundays anyways. He kind of got off like around noon. I would talk to him about everything that I had learned there, and he just listened, and we just had conversations. And it was really nice, like, getting to church by myself, because then I started to do my own connection with God. Because
journaling.
Yeah, I was journaling, I was reading my devotionals, reading the Bible, and then I started feeling convicted about things that were happening in our relationship. I didn't really know how to navigate that, because when you're in a relationship and someone is so used to a certain version of you, when you begin to grow and change, sometimes it can be frustrating because you want to grow and change, but at the same time, you shouldn't. You have to understand that person expects a certain version of you, and so you can't just change without communicating that. Mm-hmm. So, and then I remember praying and asking God to navigate how you should go to church with me, and then you stopped working on Sundays. So when you stopped working on Sundays, he started coming to church with me just so we could go to eat at our favorite restaurant after church.
So I had that experience with God, and I'll tell you guys my testimony another time, but I had that experience with God, and I started going to church more often, reading the Bible, and I started to understand the order of, the family, which is God first, husband, wife, children, and we started living it. And that's how you know the word is really powerful in our lives, because once we started hearing it, we had no choice but to listen, because God was talking to us and we had to be obedient. And when you hear the Holy Spirit speak to you, it's important to be obedient, because once you know better, you have to do better. And if you don't do better, then, there's some consequences to not listening to that. Not listening, there's consequences. In the end, how we both got on board is that we ultimately put Christ at the center of our relationship together. And it was a process for the both of us. A process for her because it was the first time she had experienced really a man handling his responsibilities. And then for me, it was different because I'd never experienced Christ in that way. So it was a transition for the both of us. And it may be a transition for you and your relationship. And what matters is that you both are in agreement in what you want, and you both are in agreement that God called you guys to be together. And that's what's important. And also putting prayer at the center of everything and the word of everything, because the word is renewing and it washes your spirit. So it's important that you guys, whenever you have an argument, whenever you have whatever it is, that you always revert back to Christ, and you revert back to his image, his likeness, his character. Everything that he does is important to put it into your relationship. Now you're having fun? Now you want to smile?
I'm not having fun. I think I don't like you.
Why you don't like your husband?
Because you're annoying.
You want to talk about faith and marriage? You don't like your husband? You're crazy. You told me don't look at the screen, and what do? Look at the screen. Don't even follow your own rules.
I'm trying to make sure the angles, because we didn't officially start talking yet.
Alright, what are we talking about? Let's pretend we love each other.
Yeah, let's pretend. Action. Close your eyes so we can make sure it's romantic.